Yeah, I think it's better because we're both fucking just like comfy. I think
Yeah.
that's like the most important thing, isn't it? Anyway,
The story. Tell me the story, please.
so I lived in this room for about 7 months. I was working in the bookies,
Mm-hmm.
bookmakers for you twats out there.
Yanks.
Yanks. What do Yanks call the bookies?
I have no idea. I mean, I probably did know.
I think they call it bookmaker, but
Yeah.
they ring up. They don't like go into shops like
No,
we
it's
do.
all online though, isn't it? But anyway, to carry on, tell me the story. I'm sorry.
So it was like I lost my job in the bookies, and then like I was riding out for 2 months in this room because I had like wages left over. Because like you work a month in hand, so I would have got sacked with my first lot of wages, and then obviously I worked a month, so I had my second lot to come in for like backup, and I knew that. So I come home one day from like chilling with my brothers, and there was a note on my door like, you have to pack up all your shit and be gone by tomorrow morning, like blah 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 is gonna come and make sure you're gone. I was like, oh fuck. But at this point I was like used to kind of being sofa surfing and shit, you know, just because it was anyway.
Didn't come as any surprise, sort of thing. It become
Yeah, I knew how it was building up to it. I knew it was coming, and like I already had like something sorted out for when it was gonna happen. So I got that note, and then like I had like, I don't know, like £700-800 like just ready to go. Because my plan was, I was like just gonna move straight into my brother's ex's, give her like a massive like little deposit for me being there, and then just ride it out, look for a job or whatever. But like in my head I was like, you know what, I want a day where I can just have nothing to worry about, you know, like do what I want, spend as much as I want, fucking go to a hotel at the end of the night and just live like a fucking king for one day, just because I knew like the next couple of months were going to be so shitty. I just wanted that one day. So I booked the night in a hotel, right? And here's me like, oh yeah, I'm gonna live like a king and fucking do this, do that with this money and that. Nah, I took my Xbox to the hotel, right? Bought fuck loads of weed, and I was so into Fallout 4 at the time that I was just like sitting in the hotel playing Fallout 4, and then going out for a joint, coming back in, playing Fallout 4, ringing the room service, like, can I have a fucking whatever?
I can imagine you like Kevin McAllister in Home Alone 2.
Oh mate, it was literally like that with the fucking, and then the thing on the TV, like, you filthy animal.
Did you have Tim Curry as like your bellboy?
No, it was some woman who was alright actually.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then I fucking, obviously I was up to like 4 a.m, right? And I was still playing Fallout. Went out to have a joint, and the cleaner must have locked the door. Because I was like fucking high, and I was like, oh no, I'm locked out. And there was the hotel was dark, like no one was there, and I was like, oh no, like my king living day is ruined because I've been locked out. And then eventually an hour later, right, I just made another joint, sat out there like, fuck, please someone walk by. An old lady walked past, and I was like, don't shit her pants. But like like hotels now, they've got like you've got to clock out at a certain time, and like the phone in my hotel must have been ringing because I never answered it. And it was like 1:30 in the afternoon. I finally woke up and answered it. She's like, Sean, you're supposed to be out at 9 a.m. and that. I was like, oh fuck. She's like, I'm gonna have to charge you an extra £100. And I was like, no.
Did you bail?
Obviously, yeah. I just needed to get that story out. Someone might get a laugh out of it, you know.
No, that's a good story because it's almost like there's maybe irony is not the word, but there was a kind of common thread to your life at that point where it's just like you were just getting shit on.
But that was the first time I had a bit of money spare to like do something like that. All the other times were just like, oh, you're living here now on 2 lesbians' couch. Yeah, no, and with some guy that pretended to have cancer. Oh, yeah. Oh, do we dive into that or do we leave that? Fuck it, though.
You know what? Save that one.
Save it,
because the problem is with that story, right? As much as I love that story,
it's dark, innit? It's quite dark.
It's hard to come back up from that. It's hard to punch.
We'll end it with that then. Well, fuck it.
Right,
we'll save that.
No, this is regarding hotel living. So I went through a phase where there was something magical about hotels, even if it was like 3 stars. Like as long as it had the basics, because I'm a man of utility. Like if it functionality, like bed, Wi-Fi, bathroom.
Wi-Fi comes into your needs, does it?
Well, yes and no. If you're in a foreign country, you need it because you need to know where, Google Maps and shit, If you're going to be navigating, because I needed that, right?
I feel, right, before we carry on, like, as long as you got a phone, like Wi-Fi, like, yeah, I love talking to people on the internet, and
but when you're in another country, you don't have data.
yeah, true.
Right, that's the point I'm making. So those are the basic necessities for me, right? And I went through a phase of really liking it. There was something about hotels that I liked. It kind of gave you, because bearing in mind, I'm someone who, I've moved out in the past, but
Bachelor, kind of. Like.
There's a sense, there's a bachelor, and I'm not a particular. I'm quite. I can be a very reclusive person, so I'm very comfortable in my own company, right? And
yeah.
So I'll tell you what. There's an interesting story, right? So I lived in a hotel in Bordeaux for the first 2.5. I got myself a hotel for 3 weeks when I first went to Bordeaux. I only stayed there for 2 weeks because I'd found a place, but I just went off the rails for that first week, where I'd had like a bag, like a 15 kg bag of all my stuff, because I was basically moving there. Right? 15 kg.
Like all your stuff.
All my stuff, about 15 books, right? A shit ton of books. I wasn't a Kindle guy back then. I only became a Kindle guy recently. Just because it's cheaper to buy shit. You can get books for 99p on Kindle. Books cost a little bit more.
You get those guys like, but I need to feel the carton turning.
Yeah. No, I've been reading a lot of books recently, and it's so much easier just to get it on Kindle, especially if it's like I'm going to say this in a way that's kind, but you get a lot of indie authors out there, and most ebooks kind of have a generic look to it, and you can kind of customize it on the app to be a certain font, to be a certain type size, so you can't really go wrong with ebooks. But whereas when it comes to getting it in print, I've seen a few independent books that have been and they don't look good at all.
Won't name no names, won't name and shame here.
No, but there's even people that you don't know about that I've seen, and I'm just like, Jesus Christ, it looks like a Word document in a book. And I'm lucky that the book I done, it looks decent. I'm gonna be making a few changes moving forward, but I don't want to get sidetracked. So basically, I'm living in this hotel in Bordeaux. It's only 3 stars, but it was pretty cheap. It was something like 300 euros for 3 weeks.
That's pretty fucking good, isn't it?
You know what I mean? They were just grateful to have the service, because it's Bordeaux in February. No one's coming to Bordeaux in February. There's nothing going on. And I just went through a phase where I just got absolutely shit-faced. I'll go to there's a city of wine. I'm in the city of wine. I could get 3-year-old red wine corked for €4 in Lidl.
Yeah.
Right?
Apparently it's a big smoker's destination, France. I heard David Sedaris talk about it on an interview. Some guy was like, why do you always go to France? He's like, because no one gives a fuck you smoke. People look at you and frown if you're not smoking.
Yeah, so France is quite... when I went to Montpellier in 2013, it was the first time I'd ever left the UK. First time I'd ever been on a plane. And the first
Really?
thing...
Abroad? Ever?
20,
in your life?
21.
Fucking hell.
Got a passport and everything that year. And I'd had like 6 lessons of French. So
really?
I thought I could speak French. Right? I'd memorized this one little sentence. And I was like, yeah, I can fucking speak French. I understand it. I've completed it, mate. French, completed it. Right? As soon as I get there, I'm like, oh, fuck, I don't know what they're saying.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Like you couldn't converse?
I couldn't hear. I was hearing French people speak for the first time. None of this BBC module bullshit.
Yeah,
I was like, I don't know what they're saying. And that's 6 weeks, mate. You're not gonna.
Do you know what it is? It's because it's human interaction between, like, we don't sit here and think about our English because we're just fucking, it's normal to us. The French people speaking to each other, they're not sitting there like trying to think about what words to say next because they already know. They're just fucking.
But by the time I went to Bordeaux, I'd been speaking the language for over 3 years, so I was fine with it. And I just went off the rails. I was drinking like nearly a whole bottle of red wine to myself in a night. And I was a big fan of Apocalypse Now at the time. My dad had got me into it.
What one's that? Because I always get it mixed up.
That's with Martin Sheen.
Right,
so the first 8 minutes of that movie, Martin Sheen is. Well, I'll tell you the backstory behind the scene and the actual scene itself. So the scene itself, the first 8 minutes of Apocalypse Now, is Martin Sheen in his hotel room in Saigon, in Vietnam.
Oh, so it's a Vietnam film. I've actually never watched Apocalypse Now.
Really good. It's really good.
Right.
And it came out in 1979.
Deer Hunter I've watched.
Uh-huh.
Deer Hunter, that's the one I've watched.
Yeah. There's a few good Vietnam films out there. Platoon, Deer Hunter, Hamburger Hill, Apocalypse Now.
Full Metal Jacket.
Yeah, that's another good one. That's
That's probably the best, isn't it?
Yeah, but it's different. It's different. It's more their train.
It's more Kubrick in it though.
All right, hold that thought because I could go on a fucking long tangent about Full Metal Jacket.
I think you've already done it.
But I'm sober now, by the way. I don't drink. And
straight edge.
Yeah, and I'm not smoking any weed on the podcast today.
What, going forward or just in general?
I just don't really. Weed's just become a separate entity now. Like, if I want to smoke it, I'll smoke it, but just not.
Just when you want to get high, like this kind of thing. Yeah.
More of a private thing now.
Yeah, like don't worry, I still get high.
Yeah. So this is my first sober podcast.
Oh.
But anyway,
so that's going to be a difficult try and make you laugh then, isn't it?
No, I'm still fucking laughing.
I've got a good joke for you.
All right, not yet.
Not yet. No, don't worry, I'll save it.
So Apocalypse Now, the first 8 minutes is amazing. It's got the Doors, the end playing, right? And you got Martin Sheen laying in bed, and it's his internal monologue, and he's just talking about how he's going insane, and then you see Martin Sheen fucking having a breakdown in this hotel in his underpants. He's doing like fucking Tai Chi, he punches the mirror, he's fucking crying his eyes out, his knuckles are bleeding, he's naked. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. That was actually Martin Sheen having a breakdown.
Really?
It was his 36th birthday, and he was an alcoholic at the time, and he just had a meltdown, and Francis Ford Coppola just filmed it. And you ever watched there's a documentary called Hearts of Darkness, the making of Apocalypse Now, and that covers that breakdown of Martin Sheen, and they filmed it, and that's the intro to the movie, right?
That's pretty nuts.
Now the reason why I brought that up is because I had a similar situation
in France,
in Bordeaux, right? I left a job I hated, and I had a couple of grand in my bank, and I'm like, now what? And I just got drunk, mate, and I could see my own reflection in the mirror, and I'm just having a fucking monologue with myself. And it was amazing. It was the best breakdown I've ever had in my life. I call it a breakthrough. Because...
Yeah, it is. It is a breakthrough.
I'd spent the last 9 to 10 months of my life with ringing phones and office bureaucracy bullshit and just not living the life of a 24-year-old. You know what I mean? I was getting fucking blazed every night on the shotties. And I needed to unleash. You know, I wasn't writing, I wasn't reading. I was done creatively. So me going to Bordeaux and then having that breakthrough, was fucking awesome. It's like, what else are you going to do in a hotel room in the middle of, in Bordeaux?
Fucking drink.
Yeah.
Drink and read.
And I got a lot of writing done. And then, you know, I came back better.
Yeah, how long were you there for?
5 months.
5 months.
And I came back like, you know, feeling better. You know? So that was a hotel story. Oh, I'll tell you another hotel story, right? To do with that hotel.
Fuck it, I've kicked off the hotel fucking story.
So there was a girl. I'm going to use a different name. Right? I'm going to do the David Sedaris approach. Right? There was a girl named Bridget. But I don't think I've told this story before, so in publicly. So this Bridget, I met her at 2013 in Montpellier, and we got off really well. But I made the rookie mistake of being attracted to her because she resembled someone I fancied back home.
Right. Yeah, I've had a few of them. Yeah.
And you think, oh, they look like someone I'm into, but that's not the same person, right? Mm-hmm. And then very quickly, we had a kind of cliched, trite kind of holiday romance, you know, nothing sexual, but it got close. And it was like, oh, that was nice. And then I left after a week because I was only going for the week. And then she was like wanting to like make it go on longer. I was like, yeah, no, I'm leaving this country and going back home. See you later, all right? But we stayed in touch, and then 3 years later, I'm going to Bordeaux. And I said, come on over. She was living in Paris. Mm-hmm. And that first night, I got too drunk, and we slept together. And I wasn't really into her the way that she was into me. So I was like, oh man, just a bad move, because that's playing with someone's emotions. Even though at the time I was doing it unintentionally, because 24 years of age, I just didn't really have that awareness.
You're thinking more about, I don't want to say dick, but yourself, you know, like...
Yeah, I was just being a 24-year-old.
Just having fun, like...
I was being a 24-year-old. Like, oh, I'm drunk, and she's here. And
she?
She's here. Yeah.
She have a little home? She have a little dick, little puss?
No, she's great. She's a very nice woman, but we fell out anyway. We don't talk anymore, but that's...
Because of that, or just...
Nah, that didn't help. That didn't help, you know what I mean?
She was saying you're pronouncing Crayon wrong.
What?
She was saying you're pronouncing Crayon wrong in French.
I don't even know what the French word for crayon is.
Crayon.
Is it?
Yeah, un crayon. I learned it in French in school, mate.
Fucking hell. There you go. I never, ever...
Well, I know, you're not going to use it, are you?
I never brought up crayons in conversation.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
That was just a fucking stupid joke. I'm sorry.
No, it's just funny. But
kick my ass about it.
And I'm having sex with her with the lights off.
Is that by choice or?
Yeah, just the ambience,
the vibe. Yeah, was
Yeah.
the candles and shit, or
No,
just the dark telly?
fucking
No
avoid-
telly on.
No telly. No, because
It's a dark room.
well, it was nighttime, you know, and it was getting late, and the lights were off.
And no telly or anything.
Well, Crocodile Dundee 3 was on, but it was dubbed. And it was funny because I was watching.
That's like Beverly Hills Cop 3 when they go to America and
Yeah,
Hollywood
yeah.
and that. Yeah,
But it was
fucking
dubbed.
hell.
But it was dubbed in French,
Oh,
and I was
no.
watching it like, oh, I actually understand this. This is cool. But I hadn't seen the first two films at the time, so I was kind of lost. You know what I mean? I was like, who's this kid that he's with? And
You've got to know the reference. That's not a knife. This is a knife.
no. I have now seen the first one since.
All right, cool.
Right, but at the time I hadn't. But it was just on. You know what I mean? This
Yeah,
isn't
yeah.
this isn't recorded TV. This is.
That's another one of them films that my mum's ex-husband used to fucking watch religiously every fucking weekend. Crocodile Dundee and
Yeah.
Waterworld.
Oh,
Crocodile Dundee's
fucking Waterworld.
fucking Waterworld, Ronnie Hayes.
But just to tie up the story, right? So we're having sex in the dark, and I can just hear her going, "Oui, oui, oui," and I stopped and thought, "Oh yeah, because she's French, isn't she? So of course she'd fucking say that. Like, at least you weren't German, right?"
No, scheißen on my Chester.
But I really offended her, and I can see why, because I was thirsty. It was humid, you know.
Yeah.
Even though it was February, it got humid. It was like 20 degrees that weekend. I just pulled out and put my pants on. Went out to the vending machine, and got a can of Oasis.
Can of Oasis?
Yeah, they do cans of Oasis over there. It's called
No.
It's called Wazis. Wazis. It comes in cans. It's
No
really nice.
way.
Yeah, it tastes like Monster. Tastes like this Monster right here. And that really offended her.
Mango, Oasis.
Yeah, so Wazis, you've got the tropical punch flavour, and you've got the black currant flavour. And
Alright.
they're both equally delicious.
Oh man.
It comes in a can, but it's like 19 cubes of sugar in a can. Right?
Oh.
So your teeth fall out your head
Oh.
after one can, right? But she got really offended by that.
Really?
And looking back on that, I can see why. I just pulled out. I didn't tell her why. I just left the hotel room in my boxer shorts.
Yeah, but you like that though, didn't you?
I just knew that I was
Like-
thirsty.
I remember, like, me and Brett were just chilling. We were all chilling in the living room one day, getting stoned and that. And you just fucking left, and we didn't see you till the morning.
Yeah.
But I got it because you're like tired.
Yeah.
You don't have to fucking be like, oh, in your own house, like, I'm going to bed, guys. See you later. You can just fucking leave.
It was just unusual behaviour trait, which I've now sort of, I don't do anymore. Like, I'll tell people, oh, I'm leaving now, see you later. But it's a social thing. It's a social skill. And it's something I've become better at as I've gotten older. But yeah, so that's the story of Bridget. Did I say her real name at any point?
No.
Oh, right.
Bridget was her real name all the way throughout.
Cool.
Cool. This is disgusting.
I think that's an early onset symptom of Karenism.
I reckon.
I think she's a Karen.
Not taking the blame.
I think she's Karen in the making because she's not holding herself accountable. That's kind of one of the main symptoms of a Karen, is they can't hold themselves accountable for their own unhappiness, for their own mental state in life. So they're quick to pin the blame on others. And don't get me wrong, I understand that people can fuck up and you get angry about it, but how quick are people to, you know what I mean? You know, there's plenty of examples that I've experienced in my life where I'm like, hang on a minute, you motherfucker. How dare you bring me down into your little warped perception of the world?
Here's a prime example of one right there. Obviously, like, some episodes I've been talking about some asshole that fucking, like, fucked me over back in my hometown. And that lied about me, said I'd done some audacious shit. And I lost a lot of friends from it, right? And I decided to cut myself off from that friend group and just be like, you know what, if they can do that to one of their best mates, they can do it to fucking anyone. So I was like, you know what, bang, gone. Like, I'm a loyal guy, I wouldn't, do you know what I mean? I can't be having that in my life, so cut it off. And then, like, I mean, yeah, I did think about it a lot, but then, yeah, like I said, I cut it off, and then now, it's got to be 3 years now. Like, now.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Of
3-4 years, yeah.
yeah, and he has the audacity to message me at 3 a.m. with a shitty meme and a backhander of an apology saying, oh, we should squash it. And, like, do you know what I mean? If I was, like, kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Like,
Do you know what? It's a win for you.
It's a win, but I don't want to.
You're vindicated now. You've been vindicated.
What's the word I'm looking for? Like, petty. I don't want to go to all these people and send them screenshots like, oh, look, he's apologised. Like, I didn't do anything. Do you know what I mean? I don't want to. I'm not gonna.
Yeah.
I haven't even replied to him. That's it. Do you know what I mean? Once I'm cut off, I'm cut off. Like, you can't win my emotions back. Once they're gone, they're gone. Once my emotions to someone's gone, I can't get them back.
But
It's
that's
like,
good though, because you have a value system. You have a line that you say this is not to be crossed. And you know what?
It's the loyalty thing in the end.
Yeah.
It's like you've got to be loyal, like, to your friends. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
you can't go a couple years and then just be like, you know what I mean? You can't. Oh, it's hard to explain. It's just a natural thing, isn't it? Like natural,
But
unquestionable loyalty, isn't it?
you've
Like,
been vindicated now, so that's a win.
yeah, true. Like, I am happy about that. I mean, it's a lift off my shoulders, but it
Mm.
just goes back to that what you were saying about like
Karenism.
Karenism. Yeah, like that's a total Karen move right there,
I'm
isn't it?
patting that word.
Karenism. Yeah.
Karenism.
But I don't mean to bring that shit out back again, but it's just like another example of like.
Well, I'm going to change the subject a little bit just to get your noggin jogging.
Go on,
All right. I've been going through this YouTube channel again that I'm a big fan of, which I've introduced to you a little bit, called Just Right.
Mm-hmm.
And this guy, I think he's Canadian, but his videos are fucking amazing for anyone that's writing or aspiring to write. And he was talking about the best screenwriter of all time.
Uh-huh.
And he was going through the list, and he was saying, like, you know, some people might think of the Coen brothers, the ones that did No Country for Old Men or The Big Lebowski or Fargo. You look at their scripts and you're like, my God, they're just fucking good at what they do.
Yeah,
Like,
they
you look
are.
at the Big Lebowski. It's a funny film, but it's a very clever film.
Uh-huh.
The way it's, even Jeff Bridges has said, every dude, every fuck, every man was in the script. He didn't improvise barely anything. And then there was obviously Quentin Tarantino, Francis Ford Coppola, Stanley Kubrick.
Western Cage. I'm joking.
Westing. But the top of that list was a man named Billy Wilder.
Yeah.
And he did a lot of films back in the day. He's dead now. But one of the 4 biggest films that he ever done, and I haven't even seen them yet, but he was showing snippets of it. And one of them I want to watch is a 1960 film called The Apartment. But Billy Wilder always worked with co-writers, and he was very good with dialogue. There's one scene where there's this woman crying, and she's wiping mascara off her eyes. And she says, "When am I ever going to learn never to wear mascara when dealing with a married man?" You know what I mean? I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, I mean, I'm butchering that a little bit. That's not how it was said, but along those lines, I'm like, oh, that's a
Clever, isn't it? Clever
Yeah.
writing.
And you know, and there was all sorts of other things as well. And the guy was talking about Billy Wilder, saying that Billy Wilder himself was a fan of a director called Ernst Lubitsch. And Ernst Lubitsch, I don't know what era he was, but this was going even further back. And he had perfected something known as the Lubitsch Touch.
I've heard about this.
It's called the joke within the. It's like there's different interpretations of what.
I
it
was
can be.
watching a joke video, like, and it's the Ludwig Touch is in. It was in that, yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't know much about it, but they just brought it up.
Here was this guy's. This was Billy Wilder's example of it. He gave an example. So he was in front of all these writing students, media students, whatever, and he says, "Well, I want you to imagine a scenario where there's a king and a queen, like of the Ottoman Empire, so like early 20th century, where they've got like they've got the jacket and the fucking weird hats sort of thing, that era." And he says, "There's a king and a queen, and the queen's embroiled in adultery with one of the king's servants." And he says to the writers, "So you try and imagine how that would play out, and everybody's going to go. Someone will go for comedic touch, someone will go for dramatic touch. Here's how Ernst Lubitsch would do it." So it was based on a real film, and you see the scenes playing out. He said, "There's a shot of the king and the queen. You see the king leaving, the doors close. The servant next to him clicks his heels and holds the sword. And then we see the king leaving. The king's a big fat guy as well, right? And he's walking down the stairs and the camera's following him. And then it goes back to the servant and he's looking over. And then he goes into the doors, but the camera stays outside of the doors. You don't see anything going on inside the room. And as it goes back to the king walking down, and he realizes he hasn't got his belt on. So he goes back up the stairs, goes into the door. The camera stays on the 2 doors. The king comes back out again, and he's got his belt, and he's putting on his belt. The belt doesn't fit. And that's when he learns that his wife's having an affair on him.
Yeah.
That's the Lubitsch touch. It's the joke within the joke. It's making the most, taking every moment to its most extreme. You know, that, for example, the Lubitsch touch.
It's kind of like show don't tell, isn't it?
The show don't tell, but it's also
Or don't show.
but it's a
tell.
joke. It's a joke within a joke. It's a devastating revelation that, oh my god, my wife's cheating on me. But he's doing it in a way where he's realizing it through the belt, not fitting.
Mate, I've watched this video, or did we watch it together?
I might have showed it to you months and months and months ago.
Yeah, because that rings a lot of bells with the Rich Touch. But
And it's something that I'm trying to, not necessarily the Lubitsch touch that I'm trying to perfect, right? But I'm going to tell you, I'm working on a story at the moment that I'm aiming to be releasing for end of September. It's a short story called Revu, and I won't spoil anything at the moment. But there's one joke in it where the characters because I'm asking myself the question, right? I'm already got a premise of the story, but now I'm asking myself the question: how do I reveal? Because I like the world to be a character in itself, right? Because I'm big on satire, right? And there's things in this world right now, presently, that frustrate me, that make me mad. So the only way for me to not get overwhelmed by it,
like ads and YouTube videos.
That's an example.
That drives me fucking
But
crazy.
there's other things too. And I think for me to be in a better state of mind, I'll write it down on paper and make it into something. So the main character, Derek, is sat with his cat Jaffa, your cat Jaffa, right? I'm stealing your cat for the story, right?
Shout out to Jaffa.
He is
pissing
kind
on
of
clothes.
Yeah.
Fucking little bastard.
Yeah, he pissed on the clothes. And so he sat there watching TV with his cat, all right? And he's flicking through the channels. And one of the TV shows that pops up is called I'm Right with Morgan Pierce. Which is
That name in itself is fucking genius.
it's funny,
Morgan
it's funny.
Pierce.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? And that was inspired by Rockstar.
Piers Morgan?
No, yeah.
I'm joking, yeah.
But it was inspired by Rockstar. So
Rockstar, what's
there
that?
was a lawyer named Jack Thompson who was constantly on their case trying to get these games, because GTA games are rated mature, but Jack Thompson was pushing for it to be adult only. Now, if something's rated adult only, it massively restricts the retail of this product.
That's why, like, Kevin Smith, for example, has to take a lot of his swear words and, like, dick and fart humour cut it out of his films.
Yeah.
That's why he's got, like, deleted scenes that are an hour long, because it's just a film,
That's
innit?
what I mean.
Yeah.
So this Jack Thompson was constantly on his case. Eventually, he got disbarred because he was just a terrible fucking lawyer. He was trying to, because there were some horrific shootings and crimes that had occurred, and he would try and play out the narrative that they played too much GTA. It would only turn out that they'd never played it, or that they had mental health issues. So they're trying to scapegoat GTA games. I think back then it was San Andreas.
Still do it all the time to this day. Like, I see nerds on, like, because I'm watching a lot of true crime videos at the minute, right? The guys will edit in clips from, like, news reporters, and it will be like, oh, they've been playing too much video games and shit. Like, I see it all the time still. Like, it's mental.
The problem with that is that it kind of completely eliminates any possibility of examination of how we got to this point.
Yeah, because, like, I don't see, like, me and you, for example, normal brains and that playing a video game and being like, oh, I want to fucking go and run down shitloads of pedestrians, because, nah, there's got to be something in the brain, innit? Like,
don't get me wrong, like, there's been times where I've been influenced as a youngin' negatively by TV. There was I couldn't remember the name of the sketch show, but I just saw a snippet of it on TV where a guy comes up and kicks this guy's crutches out from under him, and everyone's laughing. There's that canned laughter. I thought, that's hilarious. And I did that to someone at school. And
just for laughs?
No, but it was a sketch show.
No, but I mean, that's what it's called, just for laughs. So there's a sketch called Just for Laughs.
Maybe that's what it was.
I'm trying to think now. I remember.
But there was just one scene where
Art Attack? No, I'm joking.
there was just a guy walking through it. I think it might have been a hospital, right? But the point is,
remember that one? Sorry, I keep interrupting. Remember that one on CBBC where it's like kids doing it, and like they'd have the old woman like always pretending to be dead, and then she'd be like, "I got ya" to her grandson.
No, but
and then there was this one where she's on like a fucking shop and convey it like little.
Oh, you know what? I don't remember that, but that sounds fucking horrific.
It's the what?
That's awful. What the fuck were the BBC playing at with their shit?
Hey, that's hilarious, mate. There was one where she's going like, like tills in shops. She's lying on that dead, like going along it, and the kid's like, "Granny, no," and she's like, "Ah, got ya."
Yeah, that's.
And then there was a guy who went around going, "Devil finger," and then like poking people.
Yeah,
remember that?
Yeah,
I can't remember what the show was called, but
well, anyway, I was negatively impacted by experiencing this sketch where a guy kicks out some person's crutches from under them and they got a broken leg, and I see someone on crutches, and I just fucking kick out from under them, and these kids nearly kick the shit out of me. You know what I mean?
I can't believe you actually did that. How old were you?
Oh, like 10.
Fucking hell, Daniel.
9-10 years of age. And I immediately...
They should have kicked the shit out. Yeah.
They nearly did, but I don't know what happened.
I'm gay.
Yeah. I'm non-binary. But
I have a nub.
Alright,
let him go, boys.
So, so Morgan... So the reason why I brought that up is because this Jack Thompson guy, was constantly on their case with Rockstar. So they put him in GTA 4 but called him Tom Jackson. And he has a line where he says, "Guns don't kill people, video games do." Right?
Mm-hmm.
And eventually Jack Thompson gets disbarred, and because he's just a fucking piece of shit. He just cares about him. He's a narcissist, basically.
He probably represented Amber Heard.
No, he's disbarred. He's disbarred. He's never allowed to be in court again.
Yeah, no.
All right. But the reason why I brought that up was because, that's what inspired me to come up with Morgan Pierce. All right. And he featured in the last book, but very briefly in chapter 1 when Dave was having his breakfast, and there's Morgan Pierce, and there's a few little funny headlines I came up with, And I thought, I'm going to bring that back, because it's in the same universe, just different characters. But I thought, let's have Morgan Pierce in there again, right?
Does he hack into people's phones that are dead?
No, this is just a kind of throwaway gag. I don't let things outstay their welcome.
I'm joking. Piers Morgan actually did that, didn't he?
I know, he did shit. He gave certain families hope that their missing relatives were still alive.
How is he, still on TV and a public figure? How does he get away with that? Because see if some normal Tom, Dick and Harry hacked into a dead person's phone and they'd be in jail for fucking years.
Because I don't know. Well, I'll tell you something about Piers Morgan in a minute, right? So let me just finish up this joke, right? So it's a TV show called I'm Right with Morgan Pierce. Mm-hmm. And Derek's watching the TV, and immediately Morgan Pierce is like, "Hello, welcome to I'm Right. I'm Morgan Pierce, and today I'm joined by Alex McCabe, who identifies as transparent. His pronouns are who and where." And then the camera switches to this dude who's completely bald and naked, hairless, and his legs are crossed, and his skin is absolutely glistening. And Morgan says to him, "So, Alex, when did you first realize that you were transparent?" Alex puts his interlocked fingers on his chest. He goes, "Oh, that's a great question, Morgan. Thanks for asking. And by the way, I'm over here." Right? And then Derek switches channels and it goes on to something else. But it's my way of sort of expressing my disdain for the current world, whilst also kind of using it to give personality for the world that I'm creating, because it's almost like a reflection of reality, even though it's 12 years from now. You know what I mean? It's just something.
12 years from now, mate, it's just only going to get worse. It's going to get worse.
Exactly. I'm not a prophet.
I'll say worse, but
But so that's my attempt at the Ludwig Touch, because here's my. I'll break it down for you, all right? So when it comes to representation and when it comes to woke culture, right, there's this kind of expectation that we are to speak their language, right? Otherwise we're deemed a bigot from their perspective. But you kind of have to look at it objectively and subjectively, because it's a whole postmodernist bullshit. Postmodernists believe that there is no objective truth. It's whatever's in your head, all right? But my argument with that is because I'm a modernist. Regardless of what you think and feel, outside of this little brain of yours is an objective reality that will exist without you. You came into this world and you'll leave this world, and this reality will still be here. Mm-hmm. Right?
I was thinking about this earlier, actually. Yeah.
Exactly. So the Ludwig Touch on this one is that most people who go along with the narrative will indulge in their self-image. They'll use the pronouns, they'll use the lingo, they will accept it blindly, right? So for this man to say he's transparent when it's been clearly demonstrated that the man's not transparent, he's just naked with no hair, and he's glistening the way Derek's seeing him. Mm-hmm. But the Ludwig Touch is that Morgan Pierce himself, that the guy is saying, "Oh, by the way, I'm over here."
When he's there.
Yeah. As if to say, was Morgan Pierce not looking at him? You know what I mean? Was he kind of like, you know what I mean? It's like, that's my attempt at the Ludwig Touch in that situation.
Yeah, that's good. It's good that you've incorporated it into your short story. That's clever, because you get people who research things and then just try and make it their own. It's don't do that. You can be inspired, and you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not copying if you're inspired.
Yeah, I look at something that is what seems difficult, and I thought, how can I do that?
That's another prime example of what I was talking about earlier with the Resident Evils. They're inspired by the films, games, well, not the films, forget I said that. They're inspired by the games and their story, but the Resident Evil story is ridiculous, but it's a game, isn't it? If you're a clever writer, if you're a clever filmmaker, TV, whatever, you'll be able to condense that story into a cohesive, clever story. Do you know what I mean? All we need to do is take the mansion setting.
Mm-hmm. Do you know what the issue is?
Cube, for example, right?
Cube, yeah.
You take Cube and what's his name?
Vincent. Oh no, Vincenzo Natali.
Vincenzo Natali, right? See, if you give him the script to fucking Resident Evil, right? You'd have it in a mansion, condensed setting with the characters, and in Cube, it's always on the characters, isn't it? Like, that's what you need. Like, with Resident Evil, the films that have come out, it's just like, boom, action, fucking fighting zombies. That's not what the games are about. It's about meticulously going through a fucking mansion and discovering, like, the evils that are there.
There's two things I have to add to that. One's about Cube. So
I get really passionate about Resident Evil.
No, but here's the problem, right? You've got to bear in mind, this was 1996 when this game first came out.
Mm-hmm.
This was during a time when stories were not necessarily the most important thing. I know they came. We're looking at like Final Fantasy VII and all that. But you know, you play Super Mario. What is the story? Mario needs to get the princess.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. It fills up.
That's a good example, actually, because look at that film.
Yeah, but that film's fucking brilliant for all the wrong reasons.
Yeah, in a way, yeah, but
mate,
but if you were a die-hard fan of Super Mario, and then watch that, you're like, what the fuck?
There's an interesting story about the making of that movie.
And then then that just goes back to die-hard Resident Evil fan. That first one comes out in the year 2000. You think, ooh, a Resident Evil film,
mm-hmm.
and then it is what it is. It's not.
It's a difficult one, isn't it? Because now video games for the last 10, 15 years are becoming more and more cinematic.
What's your favourite game ever?
Majora's Mask.
Right, so imagine, right, they made a Majora's Mask film, and instead of the main character being Link, it was Jeffrey.
Who's Jeffrey?
Exactly. Who the fuck's Alice?
The postman.
Who the fuck's Alice, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. Alice is never in a Resident Evil game, but there she is, the main character. Who the fuck is she? Exactly. Who's Jeffrey?
Wasn't
Jeffrey.
it funny how the second film they tried to introduce Jill Valentine?
She's from Kettering, you know, that actor.
I know.
That's mad, isn't it?
That.
But yeah, it's just... But even then, they're in it, but Alice is still the main character. Who the fuck's Alice?
Exactly.
You go through all these films, yeah, you're getting introduced to Alice, by the end of it, she's a fucking Superman. Superwoman, super non-binary, I don't know. But yeah, fucking...
Transparent.
Do you know what I'm saying? Super transparent. Do you know what I'm saying, though? Like, they're fucking with our childhood. They're just... And they seem to think, people that were born in the 90s and played the games, they ain't going to give a fucking shit.
No. It doesn't upset your childhood. And I'll tell you why. Because...
It does.
They're separate entities. They're different mediums. All right? You've got...
I'd argue again, no, because...
One's a video game. One's a movie.
To fuck it up.
Yeah, well...
Whoever let that script go was, like, not a Resident Evil fan.
You're getting very emotional about this.
I know,
let's talk about Cube.
I do get emotional.
Take a chill pill, it's fine.
But Cube was just an example of, like, a good director who can do something in a tight environment. Do you know what I mean? With a character work. Obviously, the story of the Cube is getting through these traps.
Well, I'm going to jog your memory about Cube. And also people watching who haven't seen the film will get a gist of what it is. It was a kind of low-budget French-Canadian film, but it was in English. And it's about these, I think it's 7 people, I can't remember the number at the top of my head, but about 7 people wake up in a cube. And it's got like these orange walls in it. Some different rooms got different, but each
it's like red, orangey, neon, like yeah.
Different colours for different rooms, but these people wake up in the same uniform. There's about 7 of them, all different walks of life. And each side of the cube has a square hatch that they can go through. And they don't know how they got there. They don't know why they're there. But they find that certain doors, all doors will lead back into the same thing, just another cube.
Mm-hmm.
But some of them are booby trapped, and they can die. And slowly but surely, the characters begin to get to know one another. You find out who the psychopaths are. You find out who the gentle ones are, the smart ones are, and they start to kind of, in a authentic way. There's friction throughout, and there's tension throughout, which is very good because of the stakes. You know, they've got no water, they've got no food. They're fucked, right? So the clock's ticking, and you start to find out some of their strengths. There's a girl, I can't remember her name, but she's very good with maths. So she sees these numbers on the side of each door, and she comes to the conclusion, anything that's not a prime number or is a prime number isn't booby trapped. And it seems to work until eventually it doesn't. And they're fucked. They're like, oh no, what's our system? And anyway, eventually they find out that the guy with them, the one that's mentally handicapped, like maybe severely autistic or something, but you've got very little verbal skills, and he's constantly tapping the side of his head, and he can look at these numbers and forget the thing that he knows, but eventually gets them out of there. But they all eventually, one by one, die off, get killed.
He's the... Is that spoiler?
He's the autistic savant. And anyway, I'll just ask you the question. What do you think the cube represents? And don't think about the other films, right? Forget...
fuck them.
Let's pretend the other films don't exist. The film on its own, Cube. What does the cube represent?
Did Vincenzo and Natalie direct the other two?
No.
Well, then they don't exist anyway.
Exactly. So, what do you think it is? Because I got a theory, but I want to hear yours first. What is the cube? Is it a government thing? Is it an extraterrestrial thing? What do you think it is? Because you never see the outside world.
Alright, I've only seen it like maybe 2 times in my entire life, right? But every time, like my theory would be to test the mental capability of handicapped people, maybe in a stressful environment.
But they're not all mentally handicapped. Just one.
No. But I know that's what I mean. But that's like they're testing him. The others are just pawns, really, to see. And I think the retarded guy was always going to survive either way, like no matter what. Yep. Like they were going to let him survive anyway.
Do you want to hear my theory?
Go on.
They're in purgatory. They've all died because they all go to bed, and then they just wake up in this cube. So technically, they've died in their sleep.
Right.
And it's not. If you look at the whole population as a whole, there's a good strong chance it's 7 of them across what at the time was 6 billion people would have died in their sleep that same day.
Mm-hmm.
They're in purgatory, and as the story progresses, you start to get little bits of their backstory, and even the good people aren't actually really that good. They've done bad things, except for the one that's mentally handicapped. He's the purest of them all, and he's the one that ends up going into the white void at the end. He made it into heaven. I'm not even a religious person, but I'm just saying I'd still recognize the allegory. He gets to go to heaven.
I reckon retards are the most sneaky because they can get away with it.
It depends on who they are. It depends on the what they suffer with. You know what I mean? Like, do you remember that kid, that severely autistic kid that was blind? Jonathan. He did the Elvis songs. I'll be with my dad. I'll be like 7 years of age, and I'll be in the queue to the bank, and then he just come out of nowhere like, "You ain't never held," and everyone's just like clapping along like, "No, he's
a little bit more action me."
Yeah, and everyone was like cool with it because.
Remember those GTA characters? GTA 1. There'd be like a group of 4 of them, like, and they'd walk around going, baby. They'd be like, fucking, what the fuck are they? Elvis characters.
By the way, that was another thing I wanted to add up.
What is that? Actually, that's what I'm gonna bring up. Fucking like Elvis is. What the fuck is that? And you watch a video, it's fucking women are like at his fucking and his little leg thing.
That poor man got fucking bled dry.
50s was a different time, wasn't it?
Well, it went on to the 70s. Like the guy died in, I want to say 77, but that guy got bled dry towards the end of his life. He was just surrounded by leeches.
Yeah, man.
And he just
do you reckon that film would be actually interesting to watch?
Is it out yet?
Yeah. It's
with Tom Hanks.
Yeah. Well, Tom Hanks is in it, but
you know what? I'm more interested in watching the Al Yankovic movie. Daniel Radcliffe's playing him.
Who's Al Yankovic?
Weird Al Yankovic.
Oh, Weird Al Yankovic.
Yankovic, sorry. Yankovic.
My mind was like, Al Yankovic? Is that a tennis player? Do
you know what's funny? Like, there was a time where like I thought he was funny, but then you look at the culture, but you look at like how we deal with parodies now, because there was a time in the 80s when only really someone like him had access to do such things. He had it wasn't so much he had the money, but he had the influence to have that production crew around him.
What was he originally famous for?
Well, I don't know what he's originally famous for, but I know he was most famous for doing parody songs of Michael Jackson. Instead of Beat It, it was Eat It.
Yeah, but when you're 12, that's funny.
Instead of Bad, it's Fat. But the one that he did that was my favorite was Smells Like Nirvana.
Oh, that's a good one.
Because he did a joke.
That holds up still, I think.
Well, he did a joke on how absurd the music video was, how absurd.
Lyrics.
They had the same janitor.
Oh, really? Yeah.
It's just him in a fucking tutu. There's one scene where he pulls out a bagel out the bucket, and it's like it's shot so perfectly. Like, that is parody done right.
Where it looks the same.
Because it looks the same, and it's like it's almost borders on satire, because it's satire. Because that Just Right guy, he done a video on what separates parody from satire, and it gets really complicated when you start going down the different subtypes of parody and satire, and it's like your mind just explodes. And it's what I'm trying to master. I'm trying to become a master of satire. That's what I am. A satiricalist. satirist. I don't know, but I want to perfect satire. It's in my blood, and yeah. So a satire kind of pays homage to the original source material, but being its own thing. But what it does is it kind of over exaggerates and embellishes certain tropes within that thing.
I've got a good thing for you to watch then that just fucking blows. Like, it's a sketch Kool.
Yeah, but it's its own thing. A satire is still its own.
Yeah,
has its own identity, whereas a parody is kind of a reflection.
There was this sketch show called Blunder, right? It was a satire of sketch shows. So it was in front of a live audience, and then they'd get like actors coming out and doing fucking weird, fucking funny, hilarious shit. Like, you ever heard of Karate Johnson?
No.
So it'd be a guy in a karate robe. He'd come out on the stage. They had like the karate man's ponytail on that, and he'd be like telling this story. He'd be like, so one day I went down to the ravine and I seen a man, and he had one arm and shit like that. It's like a very intricate, funny
Absurdism,
story,
isn't it?
Yeah.
On
And then right at the end, he'd be getting into an altercation with this man, and he'd go, and this is karate. And he'd like swing his robe back, and he's got one testy hanging out, and he's like, hoi, hoi, fucking lifting his leg up, and the ball's going, ch. And then there was another one, right? This is the best one. It was like the guy from Peep Show, David Mitchell.
Yeah,
The nerdy one.
Rachel loves him, by the way. Would I lie to you? She's a big fan of that show.
And then there was two other sketch actors. They're well known, but I can't remember their names, right? And their whole sketch bit would be like going into places where kids play and that, and then there'd always be a sign saying like no balls. Like this one, they're in a swimming bath. They're in like the shallow end, just sitting there in their trunks chilling. And then they're looking around at the sign, and it's like no ball games, no running, no paedophiles. And they'd be like, ah, for God's sake, and then stand up and walk out, like, because they're paedophiles. Like, and that's just like outrageous funny comedy. Like, that wouldn't fly nowadays. Do you know what I mean? That's that kind of, because that's a sketch show, but it's kind of a piss take of a sketch show, because they're doing outrageous like.
And it's also as well as like, I'm trying to tap into this type of comedy.
Oh, and I tried to buy Blunder on DVD. It's like 30 quid. It's hard to get.
Wow.
Come out in like 2006.
I want to tell you a joke that you've heard some of, but I'm going to just tell you the rest of it.
I'll hit you with a joke back.
Because it's my attempt at trying to, we live in a very divisive political climate now, where it's kind of like either left or right, and not necessarily left and right as in like socialism versus capitalism, but just kind of like left and right for the argument of that team A and team B, right? And I'm trying to like come up with funny things that either I say or things that I write in fiction or literature that kind of flies under the radar, and it kind of cancels each other out, both on the team A and B spectrum, right? I'll give you an example, right? I had this idea for an open mic session, I might say one day, where I say to people, anybody vaccinated? And there might be a few show of hands, and I'll just say, I got vaccinated. I went with the Johnson & Johnson vaccine because it says no more tears. And I don't care where you are politically. I think we both can agree on that, right? And I said, and I can vouch for that because my tear ducts shriveled up as a side effect. But it's rare. It's very rare. Yeah. So, don't worry. But you know what I mean? It's like,
It's...
who's that going to make mad?
Because the first bit's like, everyone's like, oh, it doesn't make him cry anymore. And then the tear ducts bit's just an extra bit. Yeah, it's like, bam.
But then I'm saying, and then I'm reversing it again. I'm reversing it again by saying, but it's very rare because I'm speaking the words of that political alignment.
Yeah. So I know what you mean. Yeah.
So I don't know what that's called, but I'm trying to tap into that.
It's like you're playing both sides, isn't it?
Yeah. And I'm trying to master that in my writing.
I wouldn't know what that's called actually.
But I'll find out about it one day. But
Here's a joke for you then. So I get very suspicious of people who use the phrase "smooth as a baby's bum."
Well,
who don't have kids.
Yeah. Well, I want to pass something by you.
Go on.
There's a thing that I've come up with that I've come to refer to as buddy love syndrome. Now, what this is that there's been times in my life that I've experienced someone who was the sort of stereotypical fat jolly guy, right? And this guy's dead now, so I can say his name. His name was Barry, and he worked at Haven, and he was an old, bold, fat dude, very jolly, right? And everybody just sort of liked him because he was a jolly fat dude, kind of like your grandpa in a way, You could see him being your grandpa. He sort of fit that archetype. And then one season, he just lost all the weight, but he ceased to be jolly. He became arrogant and short, and I don't know. I can't explain it. But
what happened to him?
Well, he lost loads of weight. I think he like lost the weight in a legitimate, healthy way, but he became arrogant in the aftermath. And I've seen it happen to some other person. I can't remember their name, but I'd seen the exact same thing happen. And I started to put the dots together and come in my head and think of it as buddy love syndrome. Because you look at Professor Clump, Sherman Clump. Is that his name, Sherman Clump?
From No Professor.
Yeah. You know, he's this jolly fat dude that everybody loves, but he's kind of oppressed in a way by society because he is constantly being put down because of his weight, and he feels
like
inadequate. But then he becomes buddy
like
love.
when he goes to the bar with his girlfriend at the start, and he's like kind of miserable and he's not really enjoying it, and then his skinny side comes out and he's on the stage like yeah.
And that's what I mean. And so I've been kind of thinking this over, like, what if this is a legitimate thing? This hypothesis, if it's a legit thing, then where does it stem from, right? And I started thinking about when you are oppressed because of something that makes you insecure, whether it be weight, right? And you, within that, inside the mind of that fat person, they have all the same idealistic visions and aspirations as anybody that was thin. You know, there was this guy, I had a client, there was a guy that watches our podcast, he's a really nice guy, but he has a problem with his weight. And he said to me, just so you know, underneath this fat guy is a skinny guy. And I was like, wow, I never thought of it that way. There's a buddy love in all of us. And when you go from being the fat guy that no one acknowledges and just kind of like, you know, thinks nothing of, and then suddenly you go from that to being in good shape, being thin, and everybody's patting you on the back and saying how fucking wonderful you are and how great you are because of the weight that you lost, that's going to fuck with your head.
Yeah,
because
I don't
because there's no easing into it. There's no sort of grace period. It's just 1 minute and then boom, you're amazing, and then suddenly you go first, and then suddenly that must mess with your head. I mean, do you think there's any legitimacy to this buddy love syndrome thing I'm trying to come up with?
No, because it does. Because before we did the podcast and that, I was a dumb fucking stinky ass turd just sitting in his room getting high and playing games like that. You know what I mean? I didn't really do fuck all.
You changed people's perception of yourself. You know, I love when the backstory of a shitty movie is more interesting than the movie. Blade Trinity is another one. There was a guy who was in it called Pat Oswalt.
Yeah.
And
Pat Oswalt's a legend.
He spoke on a podcast. Let me just get this out. It's a cigarette, by the way.
I'm not high, Mum.
Yeah, no, she don't care. But yeah. So Pat Oswalt was talking about Blade Trinity, and the Blade 1 was amazing. Blade 2 was so-so. And
yeah, Blade 1 and 2, you can watch them and be like, yeah.
But by Blade 3, they're trying to shoehorn in younger talent, Ryan Reynolds.
You know, when I fucking watched Blade 3 for the first time, I liked it.
You were young, you know. True. I didn't mind it. But Wesley Snipes was fucking fuming through the making of this film.
Really? You can kind of tell the way he's...
Well, he was being pushed out of the film. He was more focus being put on Jessica Biel and Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah.
And but something good comes out of this, right? So Wesley Snipes has just sat in his trailer. Got a bit of paper on my tongue there. He just sat in his trailer, and Pat Oswalt said you'd walk past it and you could just smell weed. He was in there, and he'd fallen out with the director, who was David S. Goyer, who was a screenwriter with Chris Nolan with the Dark Knight series and all that. He's done a lot of superhero shit, and they'd fallen out big time. So they'd be exchanging through post-it notes between their assistants, and Wesley Snipes would sign the post-it notes Blade.
Really? Yeah.
And oh man, it was messy. But Pat Oswalt was saying the movie's hot garbage, but the fact it got made
is brilliant.
Is a miracle in itself because of how disastrous it was.
That's fucking cool.
And it's interesting, isn't it? Because you think like these actors, like when we were kids growing up, these actors were put on pedestals because back then it wasn't like the same kind of interaction that we have today with Twitter and social media. Back then it was like
they're an enigma, aren't they? Like
magazines and interviews.
You're never gonna walk past them in the street, like, do you know what I mean?
Exactly. They were like prophets back then because
and even TV presenters and shit, like even them nowadays, they're fucking What's
you're the guy that does the weather. All right.
Nah, like Z's listers, like they're fucking like on the Big Brother celebrity scale, fucking TV presenters now. Because no one fucking watches TV.
No, that's it.
You know what I mean? I wouldn't know who the fucking. See if a weatherman walked past me and everyone's like,
people on YouTube are more famous than people on TV.
100%, 100%.
But where I was going with this is that, you know, these actors are just people like us. I would love to be a fly on the wall with some of these dramas that happen on set that you never hear about, like the kind of egocentric, narcissistic, or childlike, you know, because again, some of these celebrities are so high up that they're separated from the rest of the world. So they're surrounded by PR agents and managers and fucking lawyers and this, that, and the other. They're just kind of in this bubble of like, a bit like with the Buddy Love situation. You're great, you're amazing, you're the best, and they just they're kind of lost touch of reality.
But does that put you off stuff?
No, I don't give a shit really.
Because here's one for you. I remember,
you know, Tom Hardy and fucking Charlize Theron had a massive falling out during the making of Mad Max. I'll still watch the film. They seem to be professional enough and they rekindled, but they're working on the desert. You know what I mean? And it's all practical. Of course, you're going to lose your fucking mind. Of course, you're going to lose your mind.
Well, here's one for Lost for you. Right in the beginning, series 1, Michael Keaton was supposed to play Jack, like the main protagonist, and right at the end of episode 1, because the show was like based in mystery all the time, the Jack was supposed to die. I don't want to ruin anything for you, but he doesn't. Because the actor that played Jack was so good, they were like, we need to keep him like to the end. So from then they made him like the main protagonist, the main actor, the one that's like gonna live to the end. And you bitch. Season 4, right? Because he knew how it was gonna end, and hey, shut up. Because he knew how it was gonna end, he started getting like too big for his boots. Mm-hmm. So they started like reining in some of his dialogue and that. So like season 4, 5, 6, Jack's barely in it. This doesn't spoil anything. But yeah, like, because the actor got too like, yeah, I'm Jack from Lost. I'm surviving to the end. All this shit. They kind of
bear in mind, it's not a natural situation for our. You think about because we are the end product of 150,000 years of evolution.
Do you reckon we are? We're on the.
Well, you know.
What do you reckon the next extinction event's going to be?
I think it's going to be
self-inflicted.
No, I think. I mean, it could, but I think most likely we're gonna basically make ourselves extinct through the intelligence explosion, the singularity, because we're gonna basically phase ourselves out into silicone-based life forms. I know you're skeptical because you think, well, who operates the machines?
No, I'm not skeptical. I'm skeptical within the next 30 years, but 200 years from now, I can see that.
Think about it, right? Once we finally make sentient beings, those sentient beings are going to make themselves. Then it's over for current.
Is that possible?
Yeah, because
for a robot, I'm saying robot, just generic terms, but like for them to make and produce.
It kind of goes really metaphysical when we start asking these questions of like, why are we here? So if there's a reason why we're here and I was to take a guess, I would say we're here because we are this lump of tissue with these 5 senses and this beating heart and this brain that kind of conceptualizes the world around us, and we're capable of independent thought. That in itself is a miracle that we've come to this point now. So are we a product of this earth, and therefore is our destiny to then replicate the thing that makes us what we are, to the point where it doesn't, we break the shackles of our biological evolution, like the blueprint that kind of dictates where we go forward. We kind of take over the reins of our own evolution, say, you know what, we're going to take it over from here, and then suddenly we're no longer relying on the slow evolution that has otherwise been dictating where we go. We're like, oh no, we got this.
Ain't me on like, do you know how you get the scale of like civilizations? Ain't we like still on 1?
Well, there's 2 scales that I know of. There's the Kardashev scale, which is the type 1, 2, and 3 civilizations, we're 0.75 on the scale. Type 1 being a species which is estimated...
Can harness the energy of the sun.
No. Natural resources, hydro, wind, sun.
Oh, they use the elements,
We can use all natural elements to sustain and perpetuate ourselves.
but we can.
Yeah, but not 100% independently yet.
Didn't Tesla figure it out?
Yes and no. It's just, I mean, I don't know.
Ain't that why they defunded him and made him pretty much kill himself into like drinking and that?
I don't know, because the only source I have is fucking Ancient Aliens, and like
there's documentaries about it, how he discovered a natural electricity.
Well, his product was that he had these towers, and it was basically wireless electricity. And
Wi-Fi, he discovered Wi-Fi.
Yeah, and it would shoot out these bolts of energy out into the sky, and the sky would essentially be like this big blanket of energy that we could take from freely without it costing anything. And some dude who was his initial investor, there was a conflict of interest, pulled his funding.
Yeah.
So, but the Ancient Aliens being what it is, piece of shit, didn't elaborate on it. I was like, excuse me, let's go back a minute. I need to know more about why this man's funding was cut. Aliens.
I think
the
Ancient Aliens.
Well, you know.
Well, in the sky, aliens.
There's no way you can get electricity from the sky. It's just not possible.
I think Ancient Aliens, as fucking stupid as it is, some of it is.
Well, I bought the whole season for £5 at a place called The Works.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's still there in Weymouth, but it was in a different location. It's where Poundland is now. And it was 2011. It was coming up to Christmas. I was like, oh, Ancient Aliens, right? I still had a DVD player back then. And I booted it up. And I'm watching it. And I'm just like... And that led into a whole fucking wormhole in itself.
Oh, it does. Once you start watching that.
But it paid off, because I eventually then started reading dystopian fiction. Like Brave New World, which I didn't finish because it's shite. And 1984, which I've read like 15 times.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So that led me down the road of dystopian fiction.
But do you know the one thing that gets me, right?
That reminds me, by the way, the good thing that came out of Blade Trinity was Ryan Reynolds being attached to Deadpool, because he was told by David S. Goyer, be Deadpool for your character. Okay. And he fell in love with it. That's how he got introduced to Deadpool. Carry on.
That's cool. What was I saying?
We're talking about Ancient Aliens and Tesla. Like, my mind being open to dystopian fiction because of Ancient Aliens.
It doesn't go down the dystopian fiction route, but it's like, how did a group of, like a civilization on the world at the time, all build pyramids, but were never in contact with each other?
It's interesting. Rachel really talked to me about this a lot, because she's big on ancient civilizations, like advanced.
That's the one thing that will get me every time. It's like they didn't speak to each other, they didn't have TV to know, but they all built pyramids.
We know of, because what's interesting.
True.
What's interesting about the pyramids is the way they're placed.
Not even the Egyptian pyramids, the Mayan pyramids, the other civilizations pyramids.
But I'm gonna be honest, I'm not too confident to go down that rabbit hole.
I'm not saying it's aliens. I'm just questioning.
No, I like it. I like the alien potential.
But when people say aliens as well, they think green men, like lifting. Nah, like aliens could be a speck of dust with the technology.
They could be a being made of bright light that have no body.
Yeah, like they could be anything.
They are literally an extension of the universe.
Aliens, just a term.
Yeah, because going back to the scales, right? We'll talk about the Kardashev scale. So I kind of detailed what type 1 was, and then type 2 is like your Dyson sphere, controlling the sun, basically colonizing the whole system, and then type 3 is like galactic levels. Like we're talking like these beings,
the Empire from Star Wars.
Beyond that, we're talking about a species, a civilization that can traverse.
Yeah, but we think the Empire is tiny when we watch the films, but then you watch Rise of Skywalker and they have like a million fucking.
Don't fucking.
I know it's shit, but like it shows you the scale of the Empire. Do you know what I mean?
Kind of, and then horses.
So that is
Lando.
Lando Califucking should have retired, is he? In?
Fucking hell! Imagine him getting that phone call. Really?
Really?
Okay.
Lando? Fucking okay.
Honey, we're getting paid.
Yeah.
Takeout's on me.
Just eat. Sorry.
Hello, Domino's.
It's Billy D. Williams. I'd like to
have 2 large pizzas, please.
I don't think he was that
Don't
bad.
tell anyone, but I'm Star Wars.
I am Han Solo's mate, Lando.
I'm going to be in Star Wars for 5 seconds.
No, he was on a good chunk of it, you know.
Oh, yeah, I don't fucking remember. Even Rachel walked out of it like that was the worst fucking movie I'd ever watched.
Yeah.
Like,
Do you know what? Initially, I walked out of The Last Jedi like that was ace. Then I rewatched it. I was like, oh, fuck, what was I thinking?
Do you know what's funny? I might have mentioned this already previously, but I kind of was in that nostalgia bubble, because 2015 it was kind of new at the time, what they call legacy sequels or nostalgia, where Star Wars had just come back, and I was 23 at the time, and I was right into it. Brett got me reading Ready Player One that same year, and I was fucking all over it because I'd never read anything that had so much reference to the 80s. And even though I didn't grow up in the 80s, I recognized the references, and it made for an enjoyable read.
You ever seen Last Action Hero?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was really into it, but then that bubble burst because of the shit that came out later. Because again, going back to the trends, it worked when Force Awakens came out. It made $2 billion. So let's do it again. And this time it makes $1.3 billion. Let's do it again. It makes $1 billion. The law of diminished returns. But they don't care. They're so greedy. They're just like, again. And eventually the bubble burst for me because I realized I'm not into this whole pop culture bullshit. Like, I'll reference pop culture stuff because I'll remember shit from my childhood or from my adolescent period. But I'm like,
yeah, but it's distinct to you. It's not trying to be nostalgic for
the problem is that
monetary purposes,
that, and also like Ready Player One puts forth, not in a very well articulated way, but it's basically saying that pop culture is a religion in this world, and I can kind of agree with that. It's like it has become a religion, but it's celebrated in the book. Like it's considered a strength to know everything about fucking Joust, 1982's Joust. Oh, that's great. Oh, good thing I played Joust last summer because I can play this game and complete the challenge. Just like, no, that's not a good thing to be. I mean, if you enjoy it, then enjoy it, but that's not something worth for me to be celebrated. I'm like, I like to dissect fucking the human spirit. What makes us tick. Things that look funny from an outside perspective. Like, what I think looks funny? I'm thinking, you look at a silent disco and you're not in the silent disco. It looks really fucking goofy. Just people and they sing. People sing they've all got different songs playing. It's
like, you seen that video of the chick at the bus stop with her headphones on, just dancing and singing, yeah.
But imagine that, that's just her expressing herself, like, kind of weird, but at the same time, I can.
Yeah, but that's how a group of people together look. It's stupid.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. That's when it gets really silly. I've seen videos of people at a silent disco. It's like when people on MSN would put lyrics to a song in their fucking name, and they would put the little musical note emoji.
And you're supposed to sing that out loud?
And I'm like, I don't know the song.
Yeah,
those lyrics look dumb to me because I don't know the song. What am I going to look up the song?
Oh, mate, I used to do that, to be fair.
Yeah,
and there'd always be like heavy metal lyrics. Everyone would be like, this guy's rapey, man.
I want to take you to the gay bar.
No, that's not metal. That's fucking...
No, I'm joking. But I'm saying, if you didn't know the
not even a lyric, just a ding 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 in fucking close bracket.
That's what I mean. And
yo, that's such a good song as well.
What would an intelligent, and a more advanced civilization or species think if they were to be a fly on the wall on a silent disco? And they'd be thinking, what the I mean, I understand that music is a universal, in my opinion, is a universal language, movement.
Well, yeah, it's made by mathematics, isn't it?
Yeah, rhythm, movement, I get it. But people sing along, out of sync, different songs happening simultaneously. It looks really fucking stupid. And I'll fucking rather die than be seen at a silent disco.
It's like, right?
I'll never be at a silent disco. I'm saying this now. Have you ever seen me at a silent disco? I fucked up.
I'll kick his ass.
Yeah, please do.
You remember being in school, right? Like year 2, 3, and you'd have to sing with the class.
Oh, the hymns.
Hymns, and I don't know, year 2 and 1 is a bit different. In junior school, yeah, it was all hymns and shit, but like year 1 and 2, it was like in the class with your teacher and sing. I can't remember what we were singing, but it would be something. And I never knew the lyrics to any of this shit. So, right, everyone would be singing the lyrics, and I'd be like, opening my mouth, going, like, no one would notice because everyone's singing. But I'm just like, making sure. And I remember one time, someone turned around to me and he was like, you're not singing. I was like, fuck. Now I'm going to get in trouble for that. But I never did.
Yeah.
But even in juniors, they'd be singing like, one more step. And I'd just be like, because I didn't want to sing.
Do you know, imagine being a fly on the wall to an assembly and hearing them sing. I'm like, Jesus Christ. I bet there was like one kid.
I thought it was just our school, right? But then as I got older, everyone, and I was like, no way, like everyone knows these songs.
Do you know what's funny? Like I remember we used to pray, and I didn't go to a religious school, so I don't fucking,
we didn't go to a religious school. Well, I did in Our Ladies, but I got kicked out of them.
We were in Corby, so there's that whole Protestant, that sectarian bullshit going on.
Yeah, I got kicked out of Our Ladies, right, for getting a gold star on my homework and whipping up my dick. Got a gold star, and I was like, woo! That was me gone.
Yeah, well, you're going through some shit. So,
Yeah, you know.
and
I think I told that before. Oh well, carry
no,
on.
that's cool. It's cool, man. But I remember, like in the junior school, like we'd all be praying at the beginning. I think we prayed first, and then we just kind of have
What
our
were you
hands.
wooden from infants to juniors to all
So
the way through?
This is the junior school, right? And we're sort of sat cross-legged praying, and
Yeah, you always had that fucking.
but then Billy Hammond never prayed, and I look back on him like, fair play, Billy. You know what? We will get in our
Yeah, respect Billy.
we will get in our meningitis jabs in year 4, right? And I was kind of psyched. I was like, yeah, cool. So they jabbed me up. No meningitis for 5 years. We're sound. Because it only lasts 5 years, by the way. So
I never got mine.
I was in 2000, so I was fucked after 2005. Let's hope I don't get meningitis. And it's no joke, meningitis. And but Billy Hammond was like, yeah, no, I don't want it.
Yeah, mate, that's what I did.
What do you mean you don't want the meningitis?
I didn't get it. My mum eventually took me to the doctors and fucking forced me to get it, but
It was Labour government. They're just giving that shit out for free. I'm like, yeah, I'll fucking take a free
what was the one we had to get in Logi?
Tri-booster.
Tetanus.
Tri-booster. It's like 3 in 1.
I never got that either.
Oh, they just fucking like Labour government, innit? It's like, yeah, free vaccines.
I remember the day before we had to get it, right? Everyone's all crying and that, like leaving, like, no, I can. I was like, look, why don't you just not fucking get it? Like, but we need to be safe. And that's just like comes back to now. It's like, I wouldn't get nothing fucking put in my body that I didn't want to.
The thing is, though, it's like it's a completely different kettle of egg because the first vaccine to ever come out. Because I am actually pro-vaccine. I'm
not anti-vax by any stretch of the imagination.
Let me elaborate. Right. So
This is us being demonetised. Carry on.
we'll never get fucking monetized anyway.
I know, that's just an ongoing joke I've got made.
Here's an interesting one, right? So Louis C.K. said this on the Andrew Schultz podcast.
That they've sensationalised.
Pegasus.
Red babe. It's just and so I remember one time.
Let her in. Twos up, you can't.
Nah, fuck Jaffa. Yeah. Have you ever been in a situation where it's like something's too good to be true, and you just can't handle it?
I don't know about.
I'll give you an example in a second, but
I don't know. Not any time recently because I'm very discerning of things. You know,
Like
what I mean? I'm really high on. I'm really big on the old earning your fortune. Don't get me wrong. Like sometimes.
no, but I mean like unexpected, like something just happens.
Yeah, like
"Ooh, okay."
an act of kindness or just something unexpected. Yeah, I believe in that.
What about a threesome? Like you and Rachel just chilling, and some fucking smoking female come up to you, and you were like, she's like, "Oh, I love having threesomes with strangers in bars."
No, see, my problem is I'm a bit of a prude,
Right.
so I can't just have one night stands because I lose
That's-
wood. I lose wood. You know, I'm.
Oh, that's brilliant you said that, because that fucking ties right into this fucking story. That's brilliant.
Yeah,
actually.
I had to get kind of emotionally acquainted because there's always that 6-week buffering period with a new partner, where it's like it takes a while for your wank bank to kind of upload them into it, you know, because at first they're kind of like you've got like this kind of not demonic, but you kind of got this dark, fetishized sort of sexualized part of your brain, and you meet this new girl, and it's going well, and you think, oh no, I can't have them in this part of the brain. They're too nice. And then within 6 weeks, they're just fully uploaded in there, and you're like, yeah, no, we're good.
Yeah, we can go
We're
fucking
good.
Brown Town.
Yeah, we're good. It's like, you know what, you're right there in there. You've it's seamless. It's uploaded.
That's brilliant, because it ties right into this, right? Because so, me, Brett, and I'm not. This is when Brett was like completely single, so it's not like this was years ago.
He's getting married in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
We're gonna do that
So
wedding.
it was me, Brett, there was Lingerer, and Brett's girlfriend at the time, and another female. I won't say any names. So we're having a good night in the Knights Lodge pub near mine. I remember the little fucking.
Yeah. Nice place.
The one that's haunted apparently by a monk. I remember my mum come home one day and she was like, I was taking a piss, I seen the monk. I was like, fuck off, mum, you didn't see no
That's
monk.
my uncle
But
in a fancy
then,
dress.
but then a news story come out in like a paper where the lady who owned the pub was like sold it in that because she actually seen like a hooded monk, and I was like, oh fuck, my mum's telling the truth. Anyway, we're at this party, but I was talking to a girl at the time, and then she was at the pub as well, and I was with these two girls, and Brett and fucking Swinny, I'll say his name, fuck it. And so she was there, but I was like chilling with them, and I didn't want to like go from group to group to group to group. So then eventually one of the chicks was like, oh, should we go back to blah blahs and have a fivesome? And I was like, well, I've never had a threesome, but a fivesome sounds even better. So alright, we go back to hers, right?
Start going to that human centipede territory, don't you?
Yeah. And so we get to hers, we will have a couple more drinks and that, try to get in the mood. And then Brett's girlfriend at the time, like, she's in the corner with this other chick, and they're conversing. Me and Brett and Swinny are sitting there like, oh, this is getting good and that. And Brett's girlfriend comes over to me, she's like, I'm gonna take you. And then the other chick's gonna take Brett. And then Swinny, you just join in. So like lights go off, and me and Brett are like smooching these girls, trying to get into the mood and that. And both of us couldn't get boners.
Oh no.
Like we legit couldn't get it up.
Drunkenness or nerves? What was it?
I'm gonna say it's being in a room with a guy sitting on a couch watching us. Because Swinny had no girl, so he was waiting for his turn.
So he was cutting.
He was just sitting there like.
I can imagine him like butt naked with his legs crossed.
I hope it wasn't butt naked, but it was dark. I didn't know. I didn't see. But it was like 10 minutes of just like grinding and that. And then I looked over at Brett. I was like, mate, I can't get it up. And he's like, neither can I. And he's like, shall we go downstairs, get a cup of tea and that? I was
Get
like,
a can of Wazzies.
Yeah, fuck. Literally, but we weren't rude about it. We didn't just. We had nothing to pull out.
Just pull out and leave.
We had floppies. We were walking out with our fucking floppies between our legs like an elephant trunk, like. And
Like
we go downstairs with Brett's girlfriend and leave other chick and Swinny upstairs. And I'm like, oh fuck, I need my charger. My phone's dead. I come up, right, and you just see his bare ass in the dark, like. And I was like, oh sorry, just getting my grinder. Oh my charger. And yeah, that's the end. Just embarrassing, isn't it, really?
Do you think, like, when it comes to threesomes and all that, there are like unestablished rules? You know, because well, actually, you know what? This kind of leads into something else I want to address with you, right? You know, I was talking about my relationship with Rachel to someone, and it was I had nothing but good things to say. Me and her are at a very high point of our relationship. You know, I've come out of my emotional hole that I was in. I'm really out of it now. I'm the happiest I've been in fucking months.
But like, say for example, when you come to me with relationship advice, I always like. I'm trying to think like. Dead honest. Do you know what I mean? I want to say the truth, even if it hurts a little bit. I don't want to hold back. Do you know what I mean? Because you're like my best mate, innit? So it's like you don't want to beat around the bush and be like,
no, I appreciate it.
You know what I mean?
But we're working together now, and our relationship's the strongest it's ever been, and it's predominantly because I'm in a good place, because I know what direction I'm going in with my life, and I've pretty much explained it at length already about what I'm up to. That's making me happy. It's giving me a sense of agency and purpose.
Mm-hmm.
But
just doing what you love, ain't it?
So I'm talking about my relationship with Rachel. Rachel was there, and we were talking to some friends. We had a little garden party. It was pretty manic at first, but then people started leaving, and it just became chill. Like, thank God, I don't need to be busy hosting. You know what I mean? Got a bit crazy, but I was talking about Tinder before I'd met Rachel. I engaged in the old Tinder thing, and what was weird about it is like there's these unestablished customs or these rules that you don't explicitly communicate to one another, but you both kind of agree upon it.
It's like a fucking audition, isn't it?
Well, it's like, yeah, so for example, there might be these unacknowledged rules like don't be too eager.
Yeah.
You know, have a good have a cool starting line, or just be yourself, or
and it's like kind of traditional bullshit where it treat the women like shit.
Yeah, well,
not like fucking beat them, but like, you know. You know, I can't remember where it's from. Family,
treat them mean, keep them keen sort of mentality you're talking about.
Yeah, that kind of old saying. But that
I could never get into that
for Tinder and that. You don't.
Yeah, but all I ever cared about was authenticity, right? Because I wasn't trying to look for one night stand. I was looking for love.
But Tinder doesn't work that way. You try and be like nice and that, and they're just like fucking. You get unmatched in the morning.
Yeah, I fucked Tinder off a long time ago. Me and Rachel met through.
Yeah, I had Tinder for a while.
Yeah, me and Rachel met through face to face.
Pumpkin patch.
Oh, hello, I'm Rachel. Hi, I'm Dan.
Do you have a cup of tea? Like, you typing in coffee one.
But, yeah, nah. Actually, I ended up shagging a bird because of that. This is before Rachel.
Shag.
How about we shag? Again, Austin.
We whacked in the coffee one disabled toilet.
Now what happened was there's this girl who I've known for years, and there was always a bit of chemistry between us, but I never really went into it. I was a bit, again, just kind of like, oh, I don't know. But then as the time went on, I was kind of like, I'm into her.
Yeah, she was butt naked.
And I had sex with her actually one time when England was playing against Belgium in the World Cup in 2018.
Right.
But this was who's playing for third place, so it was the second game, right?
Yeah. Did we? No, we lost that.
Yeah. But I'm sat with her, and that was gonna be my kind of get out of jail free card. And I looked at my phone and I thought, England's losing. And we had sex. And then about a year later, I'm walking through town with my laptop because I was writing the book at the time, and I'm going to the coffee when I bump into her. I was like, "Oh, hey, how's it going?" I was like, "Oh, hey." And
Is this the same chick we hung around with that day?
No,
a different chick.
No. This is a coffee girl, very nice girl. But and I just bumped into her. Like, "Oh, hey, how's it going?" And the next thing you know, we're just walking to her house, and then we're fucking. Like nothing was said.
What do you mean? Like
we never said at any point between us did we say,
"Oh, we're fucking."
Are we fucking?
Yeah.
It was just kind of like, "Hey, how's it going? Well, let's go back to your place." And then you're just fucking. And I was like, "That's interesting. That's interesting." You know what I mean? We're just two consensual adults.
That's an adult thing. That's like in your 20s kind of thing. When you're younger and that, or when we were younger.
Well, that was it. I was 27 at the time. You know?
It was like on MSN, like, and you'd beat her out in the bush, like, are you coming round to, you know.
Yeah. But going back to the whole Tinder thing, these unestablished customs or unestablished rules, it's like, you know, all I was seeking was authenticity. Just human interaction, plain and simple. Nothing complicated, no games, no bullshit. And that's why with me and Rachel it worked so well. Because, you know, I remember like, and bear in mind, she's 5 years older than me as well. So, and she's experienced a lot of life. So that kind of makes it easier. She didn't want no bullshit either. She just wanted decent human interaction. And she found me interesting from the get-go. And I remember one time we'd been seeing each other for a week. And I just messaged her saying, "Do you want to come to my house for the night?" And there was none of this, "Oh, I don't know." I just like, "Yeah, okay, cool." And that was it. She came around, bought some gin. I fucking hate gin, but we drank it anyway.
But that's when you know.
Played cards and had a good time.
That's when you know someone generally likes you. There's no faff. It's just like, yeah, let's do this,
like,
let's do that.
The problem with like Tinder is like it's almost like this this game show that ends with a fuck. It's like, well done, you've won a fuck. Or like, I think we already spoke about this many podcasts ago. When it's like, you've won 5,000 fucks. Like, would it be funny if like you got told how many fucks you'd get from that particular individual?
Sean Murray, come on down.
Oh, yeah, oh my God, I have to tell you something. You just reminded me of something, right? So me and Rachel, early in the week, went on YouTube and were watching reruns of Get Your Cards Right.
Right.
And these two episodes that we watched, episode 1 and episode 2, so there was like one after the other, from 1995, right? And one of the dudes, because there was two couples, and one of the dudes on both episodes, two different dudes, had the same weird mandark fucking receding hairline, right?
That's defo a 90s thing.
Yeah.
I was watching a video of Phil Collins the other day, and his hair was like that. And I was like, he's got enough money.
It was like a half-cut perm with that fucking distinctive hairline. And I remember just saying to Rachel, I was like, there's no way that hairline lived to see the millennium. You know what I mean? Because it was 1995.
Yeah, well,
And I'm like, you know, some of these people are in their 20s or 30s. Like, yeah, they look kind of goofy in their 90s attire with their shitty hairline. But I'm thinking, if you were to see a picture of them now, if they're alive still, they're going to be late 50s, round face, bold. And it's like that generic...
Imagine HD in the 90s. Fucking hell. Fucking hell.
That's one of the reasons why I stopped. There were two reasons why I stopped drinking. I never had a drinking issue anyway. I never took the piss with drinking. But I was drinking regularly. Not to excess, but regularly. Mm-hmm. And the way my brain works, I don't think about day to day. I think sometimes week to week. So I'm thinking, all right, this is how much I'm consuming on the day, but this is how much I'm consuming by the week. And it was like sometimes a bottle and a half of wine, which isn't a lot a week. But at the same time, I thought 2 days later I'd wake up and I'd just be in a foul mood because I hated the world, or I hated where my life wasn't going, or where it was going, or did not know where it was going.
Is that because withdrawals?
No.
Because sometimes I wake up, right, if I've got like a little bit of weed, I'll be like, fuck the world. Do you know what I mean?
No, you know what it comes from? It comes from what we're saying to Benji, like I'll get a slight accentuation of happiness from drinking 2 large glasses of wine. I'm cool, I'm alright. And I don't know, it didn't coincide with me well 2 days later.
Yeah, when you think about it, overthink about it.
I wouldn't have a hangover the next day because I didn't do it in excess, but there would be a black cloud hanging over me. And it might not just be in the drinking.
But I think you're too hard on yourself because you don't even have a drinking problem. Like, you're just enjoying.
Yeah, but you know what? I just said enough's enough, and I haven't looked back. I'm so happy now.
Because I love doing this. Like, I just love. I love writing as well. Don't get me wrong. That's like my main thing. But I can put that to the side. You know, like a like when I'm doing this, for example, like I rarely talk about my writing. Do you know what I mean? I like to keep it shrouded in mystery. Because I want people to then open the book and go, holy fucking shit, I never expected this from him. Do you know what I mean? Because I think people, when they watch me, or I get told, like, oh, funny, you're a funny guy. It's like, yeah, I know I'm a funny guy. Like, I mean to be funny. Like, I try, and I want people to laugh. You know what I mean? I love seeing people's, like, laughing face, you know? It brings me so much fucking
empathy,
joy.
Isn't it? It's like you're an empath. You like to see
joy
massive
in people.
Empath. You like to see, and the opposite of an empath is a psychopath, where it's like they like to see people suffer, or they just don't simply acknowledge the suffering. Whereas you like to, like, you know, I like to watch. Sometimes I'll go through phases, not so much now these days, but I'll go through a phase of watching YouTube reactions because I like to see them laugh at the things that I laugh at. I want to see what do they think about it? What's their perspective?
Yeah, sometimes I do that with music.
Oh yeah, that's a weird. I
like,
get that. I know that exists.
A fucking heavy metal song in my head, like, and I'll be listening to it. I'll be like, that's fucking. And I'll be watching other people's. Some people egg it on, but then you get this one black dude. I forget his YouTube name, but he fucking loves breakdowns and that. And he'll be listening to a song, and he's got this like fucking, you know, those like dolls you punch and that. I forget what they're called. Like, it's just like a big.
Like the one at the kickboxing place.
Yeah. I can't remember what they're called, like a dummy or fucking
It's like the torso and the head.
And he's got that, and if it really kicks in, he starts fucking moshing with it and that. And I think, yes, man, I love that shit. See, if you're into like at a gig and everyone's just on the same wavelength, it's like the most beautifulest thing ever. Because I remember one year I went Sonosphere, and it was kind of like, I had to go on my own because I had arranged to go with these people and they left me. I don't know why. But I was like, fuck, I must get a train and go on my own. And I did. And I remember Brett saying he was at like the booze thing, like 7 booze. And I never seen him in the end.
Oh, yeah, I remember him doing that.
I was shouting him like every time like there'd be a quiet bit in the song. I'd be like, Brett, because I was on my own the whole time, right? And then there's this guy who looks like Michael Cera. He's from Kettering, right? And we're chatting. I can't remember what I did. I knocked his beer or something anyway, but he punched me right in the fucking face. I punched him right back, and then his mate comes over like, fucking hell, lads. And I was like, mate, get Michael Cera the fuck away from me. And so I didn't see them the rest of the night, but this is when Enter Shikari were doing their 10-year anniversary of their first album. Remember, we were like in school and everyone was blasting the first Enter Shikari album, like all the scene kids and that. I fucking loved it. And then they started making like other albums, but that weren't as good. So I went off them, but then the 10-year anniversary of their first album, I was like, I'm going to that. And they come out, and Michael Cera and his mate were in the crowd, and I was like, lads, I'm on my own, like, can I just fucking get fucked up with you? And they were like, yeah, alright, and just don't hit me in the face this time. I was like, alright, no, you do the same. And then by the end of the night, the gig's finishing, they gave me a lift home. It was kind of beautiful, like, it's mad, because we're all just, everyone, like, Sonosphere's like Glastonbury, there's loads of other bands there, you go and see them and that, but like everyone was there to see Enter Shikari, do you know what I mean? Do their their first album 10 years later. Obviously their voices have got better, and you know what I mean, the production was just better, and it was just, everyone was like into it, do you know what I mean? And it was just fucking beautiful, man. And you can't do that without a crowd, do you know what I mean? Like, say when, like, during COVID, when like bands were doing live shows on YouTube and you're just sitting there watching it, yeah, it's good, it's enjoyable, but it's not the same atmosphere, do you know? It's like that atmosphere. It's like at the cinema when you're watching a great film and everyone's like, oh, laughing. Yeah, so we might as well go full circle from the start, actually, because it kind of ties in well and it kind of goes full circle. So, you know how I was saying right at the start, I was in like a limbo between getting evicted from a house, you know, doing the hotel antics and then going into somewhere. So this is kind of full circle. So I was like, I was getting evicted from a house, waiting to go into my next accommodation, and then moving in with those 2 lesbians. And when I moved in initially, it was me, the 2 lesbians, and a fat fucking loser who lived on a mattress in the living room. And he had a job, and he got up at 6 a.m. But the first night I stayed there, right, we all had a late night, we were watching films, getting stoned.
And we'll call him Glum.
That's kind of too that's kind of too close. We'll have to give him an actual
Brum.
Oh no, it can't be his actual. You might as well just call him fucking Grum.
You'll fuck him, alright?
Yeah, actually, no. There's a piece of shit. You're a piece of fucking shit, Grum. I don't care. So Grum, he stayed on the mattress in the fucking living room, right? And that didn't bother me, because, like, I'm homeless too. Why the fuck would I move into someone's house and, oh, that's disgusting, when I'm living on the couch? I didn't care. People got to do what they got to do when they're in a situation like that, right? But he wasn't in a situation. He had a job at the time. And like I was saying, we when I first moved in, we got stoned and watched, like, fucking, what did we watch? Guardians of the Galaxy. Just movies all night. Just, you know what I mean? I didn't know them, so we were kind of getting to know each other. And it gets to about 4 a.m. Grum's already asleep because he's got work at 6. And I went to sleep like 4:30 a.m. Well, I was going to sleep, and I heard his alarm, like, for work and that. And he's as I've moved in, he's in his head. He's thought, I'm gonna wake up in the morning and pretend that I didn't have work. So, like, I could hear him getting calls, and he kept, like, silencing them. And there's me, like, on, like, with the covers over me, pretending to be asleep and that, trying to
Looking
figure
like
out
a Jawa.
figure out what the fuck he's doing. And I eventually fall asleep and wake up at like 1 p.m. because it's a late one, and he's still there on his fucking mattress. Now he's not gone to work. Like, and then when they come in the living room in the morning and that, he was like, oh yeah, they rang me this morning and said there's no work. But I knew he was talking shit because he didn't answer his phone or anything. So a couple of days go by where he's not got no work and that, and they're like questioning him. They're like, well, why there's no work and that? Boom. Oh, I've got cancer.
I know I've heard this story before, but that just shocks me.
It's fucking ruthless.
Keep going.
So at first you're like, oh shit, Grum's got cancer. This is not good. Let's make sure he's alright, you know what I mean? Look after him. If he wants to sleep if he wants to sleep from 6:30 a.m. till 10 p.m. at night, let's let him. He's got cancer. Yeah. So
he needs his energy.
Yeah. Yeah. He needs all the energy he can get. He needs fucking 18 hours sleep.
He's eating his chocolate. All he needs is glucose. He needs his simple sugars.
So yeah.
Eating a big bowl of pasta. He needs his carbohydrates.
A couple of weeks go by where we're like, his fucking pretty much his live-in garage. Like, he just never...
Wiping his arse and all that, holding him up. Exorcist style.
He never leaves his bed. He's lying there all the time on his phone, and we're just like, oh, he's got cancer. He's alright. Bless him. Bless him. He's got cancer. So yeah, 3 weeks go by, and then this one day he's out the house. We come home from somewhere. I think we're in town. Come home. The mattress is empty. We're like, oh shit, Grum's must have gone to hospital to get chemo or something. I don't know. Do you know what I mean? Like, we didn't know. And then his mum knocks the door, and she's like, oh, is Graham here? And we're like, no. We assumed he was at doctors or something. And she's like, why would he be at the doctors and that? We're like, oh yeah, he has cancer. And his mum looks at us like you initially reacted with your eyes. Like, she was like, Graham doesn't have cancer. And then we were like, what? We've been wiping his ass for the past 3 weeks. What the fuck?
Have you actually been wiping his ass?
No, I just said that for dramatic effect, you know. But that's like I do. But yeah, we were like, what the fuck? Like, and we sat in the living room, like, I've been living there like 3-4 weeks. So I mean, I didn't know what to do.
It's like a sitcom. Oh, Grummy.
Oh, Grum. Lying about cancer again.
And it sort of does that fade out where it's like that circle.
And then he walks through the door and it stops, yeah, and the circle goes on, and there's
and it's that canned laughter. And the credits just roll.
Yeah. But now, we'll talk.
Who else but Grum? Coming up next. Sorry, carry on.
Yeah, we were like, holy shit. Yeah, he's been telling us he's got cancer.
Talk me through this part, because I don't think I've ever asked this question, right? He walks through the door.
So I made myself scarce at this point, because, like, obviously it's not my house to be like, oh yeah, you just need to kick him out. Do you know what I mean? I didn't have a say. Like, I was paying them money, but I wasn't paying them much, because I was like, no job, homeless, like, do you know what I mean? Yeah. So they didn't mind that, because I wasn't lying about having fucking cancer. But yeah, they were asking me, like, what should we do in that? And I was like, nah, that's, like, fucking unacceptable. You can't, like, my brother had, like, a brain tumor and that, and that shit don't fly with me. Do you know what I mean? Like, a certain thing, like, I can have a joke and this and that and fucking take a piss out of everything, but there's certain things that you don't lie about, or you don't lie in general, but that's fucking unacceptable. Yeah. That's kind of the drift of what I said to them. I was like, that's fucking unacceptable. You can't excuse it. He's obviously done that to stay here longer because he knew he wasn't going to go back to work. That's what I was saying to them.
All he had to do was just go back to work. Like, no one
Well,
liked
not
it.
even that. Just say, look, I can't be arsed with the job anymore. I'm not going back. I'll look for another job.
Yeah.
You don't have to be like, oh, I have stage 3 cancer.
Stage 3.
I don't know if he said that, but it was ruthless. He shouldn't have even said he had it in the first place.
So what happens? He gets home, right?
So I wasn't there. Like I said, I made myself scarce, but when I came back, like, the mood was just sour. Grum was still there, and like they pretty much kicked him out, but they had nowhere to go at first, so he was still just like in his bed, like. And every day I was getting more and more annoyed at him, like, just the fucking simple fact that he lied about that, and I was just snapping at him at the littlest things. And eventually one day he was just gone, like, he just obviously just gone. But
Vanished like a fart in the wind.
Mate, we lifted up his mattress to take outside, like, to get rid of it, because it stank in that.
That it did.
And we lifted it up, and there was just like a circle of wet on the floor, and it was like the yellowest yellow you've ever seen in your fucking life on the bottom of the mattress.
It's like in Big Daddy when the little kid's like,
yeah.
I wet my bed. And then they go down and Adam Sandler like, wow, that's a shitload of piss. And it's the biggest piss patch you've ever seen. And he puts newspaper on it.
That was literally it. And well, fucking, like, this guy, man, is disgusting. Like, he literally slept for like 18 hours a day and was up for like 3 hours, and he's like, bedtime again. Like, how does he even get tired? He must have cancer.
Koala.
He must actually do have cancer. Grum, you might actually want to go to the doctors and get checked out, mate.
Yeah.
No one sleeps 18 hours a day, you know what I mean? But yeah, that's just a fucked up story.
That's depression. Easily.
That's 100% depression.
Yeah, man.
And yeah, we've kind of took the piss, but like, you know what I mean? That is the but I know, I mean, like, fuck Grum in general, but like that's a sign of, we should have really picked up on that, you know, like, he was, but then again, you don't lie about that sort of shit.
No, man.
Anyway, but that was full circle. We come full circle in the end.
We'll be no carbon in a minute. It's fun.
Alright,
Good book.
subscribe up here, like Instagram down here, your mum, peace out.